Hi there, it's Catherine at 3Ps. Welcome. This is another thought session. So this video is about why women should lift weights and what you can get from lifting weights beyond the immediate fitness benefit. You know, why psychologically is it a good idea to lift weights? And I wanted to just talk to you about some of the books I have in my library about female bodybuilding. It's quite difficult to find books on female bodybuilders, but there are a few. I will put some links at the bottom of this video, and I'll also put some messages probably up on the screen for some of these books. If you are a woman interested in lifting weights, I would encourage you to read on the subject because I think it's a really fascinating area. The thing about women and weights is we're doing the opposite of what we're traditionally expected to do. Women are expected to get smaller and smaller and smaller. If you are a bodybuilder, you want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the biggest compliment to a woman if she's a bodybuilder is you've got bigger, which, as you can imagine, is something which for the average woman would be a hideous thing to say to them. This video might be considered to be a bit niche because I'm talking about to particularly women who want to build a lot of muscle, but I would hope that women who are just curious about why women lift weights would watch this video, because I'm just going to talk about some of the psychology around it, okay? And I have 3 books that are particularly about this subject which I wanted to talk to you about. And the first one I want to talk to you about is a book that I've talked about before, but I absolutely love because it's sort of kitsch but just fabulous, and it's called Super Pump. And as you can see, it's got an exclamation mark, Super Pump. And you've got some great female bodybuilders from the 80s on the cover. This woman here is called Gloria, and she actually ended up marrying Jean-Claude Van Damme. He took one look at her and obviously thought, I'll have that. And they got married, they had a child together. He then unfortunately decided to go off with Miss Hawaiian Tropic. That's completely true. He went off with Miss Hawaiian Tropic, and then I think that just fell apart, and he ended up back with Gloria. She took him back, and they're now, you know, happily settled together. I think she's she's obviously a very beautiful woman, but she's quite stoic, clearly, to put up with that. But I think if you are a female bodybuilder, you're quite sort of grounded, I think, as a person, and maybe that's what's, you know, helped her get through that with him. Anyway, why do I love this book? I love this book for the photography, and I love this book because it was the first book I could find which had really great photography of female bodybuilders that didn't make them look like men, but made them look like strong women. So I want to show you a couple of those. This woman's called Sue-Ann McKean. Now I'm showing her because she's probably the most muscular that's in here. We'll just show her, okay, right. So initially you may, if you are, you know, for someone who's sort of, you know, not into bodybuilding, you may think, oh, she looks quite muscular. And she does look quite muscular. And this photograph here is of her doing her martial arts, because she's also a martial artist. And that's not to a lot of people's taste. But, you know, I don't want us to ignore the fact that the whole point about bodybuilding is about building muscle. And if actually as a woman, you don't want to build a lot of muscle, then you'll be in the fitness camp. So you'll be looking at, you know, the fitness type competitions, not bodybuilding. But bodybuilding at its core is about developing muscle to the max. And so you can't get away with that for women. The difference between a fitness competition and bodybuilding is fitness, you do it in a swimsuit and heels. And bodybuilding, there's no heels involved because it's meant to be a sport. I will go on, there's a book at the end of this 3 that talks about the whole conflict around, you know, how big should women get? You know, is it what are the aesthetics of bodybuilding? And I think it's a really interesting question, because I think the thing about bodybuilding is, it's, as a woman, it's very like what happened when punk hit. And now, believe it or not, it's 40 years. It's 40 years since punk hit in London, and I am a Londoner. And when punk hit, it was the first time that women were allowed to look in a way that wasn't dictated by what society thought women should look like. So they didn't have to have nice hair and a nice dress on. Women deliberately went out to look the opposite. They looked very aggressive. They put on boots. They put on ripped tights. They coloured their hair, shaved their heads, which again was really, at that time, was a very aggressive look. They had obvious body piercings. This was completely new, and it was actually a rejection of what had gone before. And it was women, as part of their, you know, the movement towards women having, you know, parity and equivalence with men in society, was saying we deserve to be able to occupy our space in the way we want to occupy it. We don't have to conform to society's expectations of the way we should look. And I was a bit young for punk, but I was around, and I remember seeing punks on the street and just being amazed, because they created such a statement on the street as girls, because they didn't look like the girls that you saw on TV and everywhere else. So that's 40 years. Roll on now. Where are we now? There are still expectations about the way women should look. Undeniable expectations, and the main one of that is the women to look small, and that's something which is probably goes almost right across the globe. It's not obviously the case in all countries, and some countries like more curvaceous women, but generally speaking, in developed countries, it's about small. To tell you a story about, I worked in Shanghai for a while, and I had a friend in Shanghai who was an American, and I said to her, she was probably about 5'8". She was an average sized, probably American, but in Shanghai she was an absolute giant. And I said to her, are you managing to buy any clothes? And she said no. She said whenever she goes into any of the shops, they just look at her in a shocked way, and the shop assistants are quite rude, and they say to her, we don't have any clothes in your size. That's what they just say to her, because the culture in a lot of countries, particularly in Asia, is again small. It's about women being delicate flowers, being tiny. If you look at culture in Europe, a lot of women run, and one of the reasons they run is it takes weight off, and it's about becoming smaller, not bigger. So the first thing I would say about being a female bodybuilder is it's a bit like being a punk, because you are going against the grain. You are undeniably going against the grain. And if you become noticeably muscular as a woman, you're going to accept the fact that you probably will get comments on the street, you probably will get comments in the gym, and you'll get some people who think it's beautiful and some people who think it's ugly. And so to go that way, it's a particular type of woman who's going to want to go that way, who wants to do something different. But it's tremendously liberating. And as I said, for a bodybuilder, as a woman, to be told you've got bigger is a compliment, whereas for most women it would be a horrific statement. So the reason I showed you Sue McKean is because she clearly is quite a muscular bodybuilder. But I wanted to show you some probably less extreme ones. And this woman's called Erica Mess, and I just thought she looked really beautiful, really muscular, but natural looking, healthy. I just think she's fantastic. There's another picture of a rear view. I just think she looks really amazing. So you can see this book is now falling apart. I've used it so much. Okay, so there's her from the back. But look at her back development. Now she's probably more towards a fitness model than now a modern bodybuilder, but she's still undeniably muscular. So I wanted to show her. And then the last one I wanted to show, I'm just going to get my glasses on, is a woman called, what's her name? Where are we? Hang on, let's find her. Let's just find Gloria for you, because Gloria is fab. And this is the one I like. This woman is called Claire Fur. And again, she's not particularly heavy, big, but you can see she's undeniably got leg development there, and she's got a good midsection as well. So the reason I like this book is because it's really attractive photography, and it's written from a fan perspective. It's not written from a, this is a freak show perspective at all. It's written from these women are beautiful, accomplished, successful sportswomen, and let's photograph them in a way that is really sympathetic. But of course, it's photographing them in a way that's active, because they are being photographed doing their workouts in the gym, which again is another reason I really approve of these photographs, because it's imagery of women doing something active. Because a lot of the imagery of women, of beautiful women, they're not doing an awful lot. They're standing around in a bikini. They are on the arms of boyfriends and husbands. These are very much women. There aren't any men in these pictures. There are women in the gym achieving. So that I think that's a really positive view of female bodybuilding. So that's the first book I really like. And whenever I get, I want a bit of, sunshine or inspiration, I often look at this, because this book, because I think it just really, I just like the photography. Okay, and I'll put a link up to this book in the notes, and I think also I might put a book list onto my website, which is at 3piecepublishing.com, and I suspect that I'll put it in the notes, but it'd probably be www.3piecepublishing.com / female-bodybuilders, I suspect, but I'll put that in the notes anyway. So the next book I wanted to look at is called Body Makers, and it's got a picture again of a rather beautiful female bodybuilder on the front. Okay, and this is more serious. There's much less photography in here, but it talks about you know, why women train and what women get from training and what women get from getting big. Because a lot of people will say, well, you know, why would a woman want to get well, why would a woman want to get big? You know, what is in it for her? What's the payoff for her? Well, let me just read from this book, and I think it explains it very, very well. Okay, it says, yet despite all this, the gym remains a place where the female body, unlike other places, can, by getting strong, earn a little respect. Respect for her body's integrity, boundaries, for her self-ownership, a respect often denied women in their daily lives. The practice of lifting and developing strength can make a woman who has been physically or emotionally abused and diminished feel stronger, more invincible, more whole. Lifting can make a woman who has been culturally devalued in any of the usual ways, quote, you throw or talk or act like a girl, quote, feel stronger, more certain of herself and her place in the world. The right she has to take up space. Let's say that again. The right she has to take up space. Even if the fitness babes are taking over the magazines, in the daily subculture things are a little different. As you get stronger, you gain the admiration and respect of regular gym members who ask your advice on how to hit legs harder or what a particular exercise does. You may also, as I did just last week, become the butt of admiring jokes. She could bench press you, man. She could bench press you too. Hell, she could bench press all of us together. Feeling I have the right to take up space works magic. And with that magic inside me, a holdover from the afternoon's workout, I'm watching some video compilations the other night. I've got on the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge and then Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers playback. Endorphins still in my blood, my chest still pumped from my bench. It hits me. On the television screen, unlike when I've got them screaming out at every speaker in my Pathfinder, helping me to take the corners and the traffic lights by storm, Tom and Mick have bodies, limits, these voices from my childhood, insinuating themselves into all my adolescent desires, the voices that had filled the room so big, so there, that I had just had to listen. This time, when I'm watching them on TV, what I see is those voices coming out of skinny guys' chests, and my chest is twice their size, and I'm not talking about breasts. I like that so much. So that's from this book called Body Makers. I think that is the essence of why women fall in love with bodybuilding. You know, men may never understand. Men may always say, you know, why does she want to get big? It just says it so well. It's about occupying space. It's about saying, I matter. I'm entitled to occupy space. I've got a particular training vest I've got which says something like, excuse me, are my biceps getting in your way? And I wear that because it just makes me smile, because the point is it's saying, I'm not going to fade into the background, and particularly in the weights room, I'm not going to wait my turn subserviently behind guys. I'm going to take a bench, I'm going to take some weights. It's amazing when you are in a weights room how often men in particular will come and steal your weights, and you have to be willing to stand up for yourself and go back and say, those are mine, you can have them when I'm finished. Getting some muscle on your body is about occupying space and saying, I matter. I think that's really important. I have one daughter, I have 3 sons and I have 1 daughter. And my daughter, I'm so keen for her that she understands that physically she matters. Physically, she has a place in the world that is not about getting smaller, it is about making an impact. If she were to come to me and say, I want to be a bodybuilder, I would say, as long as there's no steroids involved, absolutely. If she came to me and said, I want you to train me, Mum, I would say, absolutely. Because I wanted to have confidence that she matters, confidence that herself as a physical being matters. I think that's really important. So that's Body Makers, okay? So that's all the sort of heartwarming stuff about why women were built. What's it like in reality if you are a female bodybuilder? Well, the picture is not as rosy, because if you are a female bodybuilder, as I said, there's a big conflict between the pure sport, which is about building musculature, and the aesthetics, and those aesthetics in particular apply to women. And the judges will have their own views about what is aesthetically the correct level of musculature for women. When it comes to men, it's pretty uncomplicated. Bigger is better. When it comes to women, the unfairness of it is that it's not necessarily bigger is better. And so female bodybuilders are on a tightrope. They're balancing getting big with not being perceived to be so big that they are unfeminine. And that's a big issue, because if it's a pure sport, that shouldn't matter. But it does, you know, it's like lots of areas of life, there are expectations about the way women look that even applies to female bodybuilding. And I wanted just to mention this last book, which is called Women of Steel, which is written by an academic, and it's very fascinating. It's sort of sad in ways, but it's fascinating because it talks about how female bodybuilding is judged in particular, and how therefore female bodybuilders are put through the ringer in terms of how they look. You know, for example, female bodybuilders are often encouraged to have silicone implants, even though they have to keep their body fat very low. They are expected to have breasts. Well, you can't have breasts if you've got really, really low body fat, because they're made of fat. So, but they end up having silicone because they're expected to have a curve in their chest, you know, on top of the musculature. So I just wanted to read a paragraph at the end, near the end of this book, which is about looking forward. So it's about what's happening in the female bodybuilding competition industry. So it says, what does the future hold for female bodybuilding, according to those who currently participate in the sport? Most argue that female bodybuilding will continue to embrace the middle-of-the-road look between the large, muscular women of the late 1980s and the smaller female bodybuilders of the late 1970s and early 1980s. In addition, they believe that this pattern will continue because female bodybuilding will still be motivated by the same factors that propel it today. The images that the social gatekeepers think will sell the most products, tickets and magazines will dominate the future of the sport. Thus, future competitive female bodybuilders will likely still be cloaked in a veil of hegemony that includes feminine hairstyles, makeup use and moderate-sized breasts. On stage, they will need to display their femininity by the way they walk and pose. Although they will still be more muscular than the average female athlete, they will continue to be directed by gatekeepers to temper their muscularity. Many judges and bodybuilders felt that the rise of fitness shows would have an impact on the sport of female bodybuilding. Fitness competitions are now sponsored by various organisations, including the NPC and the IFBB. At fitness contests, which fall between a female bodybuilding competition and a beauty pageant, contestants are judged on their athletic fitness and attractiveness. They are usually swimsuit and dance aerobic rounds, really, in which contestants are evaluated by a panel of judges. Some organisations that sponsor fitness contests have evening gown rounds, really, in which contestants have a 30-second brief biography as well as share their philosophy on fitness. I just interrupt here and say I think that's taking us back about 40 years. I cannot believe that they would have evening dress rounds. It's meant to be a sport, but there we are. Maybe they should put the bodybuilders into their own black tie. They can go and be interviewed as well. Right. One fitness show sponsor pressures its contestants not to flex their muscles or emphasise muscle size. Goodness me. There is no consensus among the participants in this study about the impact of these contests on female bodybuilding. Those who voiced an opinion felt that such competitions should have one of a couple of possible effects on judging the contests. On the one hand, they may lessen the pressure on female bodybuilders to limit their muscularity, since fitness contests will fill the need to comply with the hegemonic displays of femininity. However, the existence of these contests may also serve to place further limits on female bodybuilders' muscular displays, because fitness shows contestants will be considered as the hegemonic embodiment of femininity, and female bodybuilders may be judged according to this standard. So, if you are a female bodybuilder, it can be quite a tightrope and it can be quite a tough life. And if we look at the cover of this book, there's a really, I think, a beautiful female body with muscle on. I don't see that as being unfeminine in any way. But it's certainly the case that when they started televising bodybuilding, when they first televised female bodybuilding, the sponsors basically had a complete hissy fit, because suddenly there were very large women going on stage, and that was not what the sponsors wanted. A lot of this is driven by sponsorship. Sponsors wanted, they wanted less extreme imagery because they want to sell their, their shakes and their vitamins to the average person. And whereas men are used to seeing very, very muscular men, women were not used to seeing very, very muscular women. And so massive pressure was put on the judges to try to encourage female bodybuilders to tone it down. So that is the reality. You may think, you'll have your own views. What I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that female bodybuilders have a place in the discussion of what women's role is. And they have a very important place, and they have a very important heritage in terms of being some of the outliers in terms of female imagery. and I don't think we should ridicule them, and I don't think we should say they're anything different from the rest of us. They just have a different sensibility, and they believe that they should be judged in the same way as male bodybuilders. And I would say that why should we judge them differently? They should be judged on their muscularity. And you know, every time you see people who, you know, criticise, then you should question those critics in terms of what their assumptions are about women. Because if they assume that it's ugly because women should look a certain way, what other assumptions are they making about women? What assumptions are they making about how, you know, how we should behave, what we should wear, what we should be paid, you know, what our household duties should be? It is the tip of an iceberg in terms of assumptions about women. And I think we should embrace all types of women, all shapes of women, and that includes very heavily muscled women. You know, occasionally if I'm, particularly if I'm on holiday, comments will come into my husband along the lines of, oh, she looks strong, which is code for she's carrying quite a bit of muscle. My husband is really proud that I am quite muscular, but the reality is, whether he was proud or not, I'm going to lift the way I want to lift, because I believe it's my decision. And I think, you know, those who have a view on female bodybuilders, it's not really any of your business, and I think you should look at your thought process on that and try and embrace the fact that we've got different varieties of people in different physicalities of people right across the spectrum. So that's sort of the end of what I want to say on this. If you like this video, interested in what I had to say, then do put a comment. Really appreciate if you put comments. You can obviously like or not like video, it's up to you. If you don't like female bodybuilders, you might say that, but that's up to you. If you want to get in touch with me, my email is hello@3pspublishing.com. I'll put that in the notes to this video. Those 3 books, I'll put those in the notes to the book, to the video. I'm also probably going to put a book list on the website, and I'll put a link to that in the notes to this video, so you can have a look at those books. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time is valuable. I hope I've given you something to think about. I hope I've given something to inspire you if you're a woman who looking to bodybuild. Have a fantastic day. Stay healthy. Bye.